We're going to reload a cast bullet for the 8mm Mauser, or the 7.9 by 57mm. Basically, we're doing this with the 88 commission rifle in mind, but these loads probably could be used in a K98 as like a light plinking load. So we have to come up, we got the bullet. We decided we're going to use that pointed bullet, which I've never shot these. Lyman discontinued the mold, which either they didn't sell or they don't work well. You know, I'm not quite sure, but we're going to find out here in a little bit. It kind of helps to have a library of older reloading manuals. I have the 45th edition Lyman Reloading Handbook. And so we find something close. We find a 168 grain cast bullet load. And I decided to use IMR's 2400 powder. Why I decided this is you can use, there's loads for unique, but this here is basically on most of them, they say is the most accurate load. If you look down there on the panel, it says accuracy load. It's 2400. So I'm going to give it a try. I've never used it before. I've used unique with cast rifle bullets and it works out okay. So we got our bullet. We got our powder. Okay, we're going to go with this powder. We got some sort of load data here, which is not exact. The bullets are weighing in, I checked them on a scale, we can double check them again. But check your bullets after they're lubed, sized, finished, ready to reload. Then check your weight and the consistency on it. We're going to see here what we're getting. 179 by 180, that's 168. So we're 10 grains heavier than this bullet, which is not a giant variance. Check another one. About a half a grain off, so fairly consistent. Not a giant variance, but bear in mind, you change anything in a recipe, primer, case, whatever, it can have an effect. So what we decided is to use 2400. We got our cast bullet. And we go over here and make up a sheet, and what we're going to do is we're going to load starting with the lowest recommended thing, which is so many grains, and then what we do is take the low end of the load, start with that, and go up to the high end in 1 grain increments. And then we check out with the chronograph, we try to see if this data comes out. Now sometimes it's right on, sometimes, most of the time I found it's a little, you know, it's not that hot, but I did have a load where I started off with the suggested starting load and got the max velocity. If something like that happens, stop, pull the ammunition apart. That's all you got to do. Alright, so we got our powder, we got our bullet. We've got a little low data sheet when we're going to run this all against the chronograph and test it for accuracy. Now you reload cast bullets. The only thing that's going to be different with a cast bullet load other than like a regular jacketed bullet load is you're going to have to open up the throat a little bit and expand it. And you're going to have to get an expansion die. Usually with cast bullets and handguns you'll do this, but you have to do it with rifles. And what it is you have to open the neck up of the case a little bit so the cast bullet fits in there. I'll explain to you what we have. We have the Lee Universal Case Expansion Die. Basically what this does is gives you a chart how to load it, and it just has a tapered plug that you run up the case, and it'll gently flare the case out to allow the cast bullet. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But this here is kind of sharp. It's universal. I've used it on several different calibers. It's kind of okay, but it's a little aggressive in the flare. But it is universal, and you can use it with different calibers, different types. You only have to buy one setup here. Where now I have, for the 8mm, I have a Lyman 8mm, they call it an M die, neck expanding die. And this is specifically made for the 8mm. I'm going to set this camera up and we'll take a look at this stuff here. Okay, I have this apart. Now what this does is this is specifically made for 8mm Mauser. You can't really use it for anything else because this shaft has a very mild taper, and when this is seated down in here, when you run this case up, see this one hasn't been run in there, it expands the case out a little, and this has a very, very mild step in there. So when the case goes up in there, can't get that one up in there either. What it does is it just basically expands, hold on a second.